This is the second letter that we have written to IMF. The first one was earlier on in May during the 5th review of Kenya by the IMF. So TISA and the Okoa Uchumi Campaign has engaged the IMF consistently since 2019, when eventually Kenya got into the current fiscal consolidation program in 2021. We have religiously engaged IMF under the Article 4 consultation. We have given them our views that if you want to heal the problem of debt in Kenya, you must address budget expenditure, because our biggest problem is not that we are not able to raise money. It is that we consistently budget for corruption, we over budget, we don't care about development, there is no fiscal discipline. So we wrote the first letter, a protest letter, that the participation was not meaningful. It was a tick box exercise. They responded and said they needed a meeting. We told them, look, we can't even come to your space because we have consistently come to your space. Now let's have a dialogue with the Kenyan people. And as Okoa Uchumi, we held a number of consultation, a national conference. We invited them. They have always declined our invitation. And then without responding to our earlier letter, they again invited us for yet another tick box exercise. And this one was very annoying because by then David D had already indicated that they have gotten a settlement and IMF is releasing a lot of money. Why invite us? To tell us the same news that you have given government. So we wrote a second time, and this time it was particularly, it was very frustrating because you announce you're coming for, you've done another review, you've advised government, we know you're behind the drive for this overtaxation that is pushing people deeper into poverty. You have advised government that, look, you can't be paying for education, health. So public health, public education costs are going up for both basic education and higher education. And on the day they invite us, government announces, now you have to pay 2,000 for IDs. Again, a craze to raise money from Kenyans who are not responsible for the mess that is happening. And you want us to come and celebrate you? No, we've not yet gotten a response. But we plan to escalate this all the way to the spring meetings in Washington. We will write the same to the AU, and we are trying to create solidarity with African organizations that IMF solutions are not for the global south. These guys are out to make sure we sink deeper into poverty.
Kenya at one point found itself in a kind of what I would call a policy mismanagement, in the sense that it found itself in what we may call structural imbalances. If I give an example, I can actually mention that at one point the government misused what I may call monetary policy by capping the interest rate. You remember that at one point that happened in Kenya, which could not even be sustained for more than one maybe fiscal year. We've had a number of issues over borrowing, and the borrowing that was happening at that time, you remember it was this of bilateral borrowing. Kenya borrowing from China, majority of borrowing came from China, and you find that a lot of it was not planned, a lot of it was not in the budget. So we had a lot of investments that were not well thought about. So at one point Kenya found itself in a situation where it was facing imminent crisis, more so the debt crisis. So it went to IMF as usual. You know, IMF, of course, is a body created to assist countries that, more so the developing countries, who have a problem of debts or problem of paying for imports. In fact, I want you to know that if any country has a problem of paying for its import, IMF will come in. It will come in to assist. So in this case, of course, Kenya was facing that problem. It was facing the problem of reserves. It was facing the problem of access of foreign currencies. And for that reason, IMF came in. As usual, it came in with its conditions. So it is at that point of what I'm calling structural imbalances, mainly brought about by mismanagement or misuse of monetary policy, that is the control of money supply, money demand by managing interest rates rather than allowing that to be managed by the market. Then it did that, or the government did that, without any fundamental indicator of the direction it would take. So it eventually put the country into a situation I may call overvalued currency, overvalued Kenya shillings against not only the international currencies, including the peers, the regional currencies. And eventually we had the problem of imports, demand for imports, the reduction in production. A number of companies, multinational companies, were able to move out of Kenya or relocate to other areas. Domestic producers, majority of them shut down your business or production points. So we had such major structural issues. I usually say Corona came to save Kenya government from imminent embarrassment of misuse of policy.
So by end of 2019, we realized we need to talk about debt. We talked to institutions like IEA, asking them, so what are you doing? And we felt there was a gap in the communication, that institutions that were doing public finance monitoring were not talking about the political side of the debt problem. And they were talking about numbers, they were talking about, these technical measures, which, that's all well and good. At that point, of course, government was saying we don't have a debt problem. Our debt is sustainable. IMF was echoing that. And we were saying, how is it sustainable if you can't finance basic services, if salaries are getting delayed, if development projects are getting suspended because there's no money? And we're like, this thing is not sustainable, and there's a lack of political accountability. So we then spoke to partners, close partners like the IBP. We went also, I remember our first joint meeting was at Kenya Human Rights Commission. We had TI. These are institutions, IPFK. These are institutions, some of whom did budget monitoring. Others did accountability. KHRC does human rights. But we thought, let's have a conversation about debt that's not about public finance management, that's about political accountability. And let's get different actors involved, including Daisy Amdani. She came in from the women's side, so that we make this, and we get social justice centers. We had Inuka as well. Let's make this a conversation, a political conversation. And so really Okoa Uchumi was born, and the idea was save the economy.
One of the biggest challenges we have right now is, as a MSME sector, instead of thriving, we are having a lot of MSMEs closing business. So that is already a negative direct implication of the fiscal consolidation. And we are not against debt, really. And that is where I think most people don't get it. As community leaders, as informal traders, as whatever space we are in, we are advocating for prudent use of resources. anytime the government borrows money on behalf of the citizens, what we are saying is let it be appropriated accordingly as stipulated in law. Because all these issues that we have is not because of the debt. It is the appropriation of the debt. It is the manner in which the government is appropriating these funds that is, that leads to all these stringent measures. Because now revenue has to be raised, whether the money has been appropriated well or not. So to curb all these, corruption holes and deficits that have been caused by illicit financial flows, it means now the government now goes back to the same pockets of Mwananchi, and hiking taxes so that now they can realize more revenue. And just to speak into the effects of that, government has now been missing their targets even on payee. So it's not even just remitting on the informal sector. Even payee, which was supposed to be an effortless, remittance to government, is becoming a problem, to show you that we are now above the normal acceptable limits of taxation and public debt management. We are taxing more. We are supposed to enjoy more quality services. We have hospitals. Hospitals right now, we have very good structures with no medicine. We have roads, incomplete roads, yet these things have been approved in budgets, have been approved in CIDPs, County Integrated Development Plans, and Annual Development Plans. But due to this, unwillingness to be accountable of our leaders, and the office bearers, most of the time we've done memos, we've done letters, to ensure that we address our leaders. Some of these things have been addressed, but largely the informal sector remains ailing, and none of the main victims of this mismanagement of debt and misappropriation of funds as a whole. So my take on it will be, it is unmanageable as far as we are concerned. And now that we, as informal traders and as informal sector, we have done our due diligence to understand, the IMF and its operation in fiscal consolidation. We understand that we are now in a commitment of up to 1st of April 2025. So they reviewed again, instead of 3 years, now we are on 5 years. So up to April 2025, that is when our review carries us to. Our issue is, we are hoping that these funds will be appropriated well, and we are calling on all stakeholders to be vigilant, to be alert, to build that sense of teamwork so that we can collectively hold the government and the office bearers accountable.
Sisi people with disability tuseme tumekuwa affected double. Kwa hiyo tujue sahihi hata kama fare imepanda, tuseme na wewe tunatoka Kariobangi pale unaishi, labda wewe you can trek up to town. Mimi siwezi trek, mimi bado natafuta pikipiki nifike hapa, nimetumia karibu 200. Wewe labda umetumia 100. Tukuja hapa hii kazi nitandike, lazima iko mtu ananiletea na iko mtu atanirudishia. Hiyo wote lazima nilipe. Sasa me and you una make profit ya 500, me I make profit ya 500. You can go home with 400, me I will go home with 300. Kwa hiyo matumizi ni mingi, lazima nikuwe na mtu wa mkono kunisaidia. Sasa sisi pia disability tumekuwa double standards.